Citizens, delegates, people of Minnesota, my name is John Leonard Mason, and I am so very proud and honored to love, support, and yes, endorse my husband, Nick Leonard, as your next United States Senator of this great state of Minnesota. Proud and bold, endorsed by Our Revolution, Minnesota, committed to championing the everyday concerns of everyday Minnesotans. The DFL will make history this day by your endorsement of him. This day before you now, look upon him. Look upon me. Look around you and think about the millions of Americans that are outside these walls today. And when you do, you shall see the progressive change we as Americans have been fighting for. Where, except for in America, is the Nick Leonard story even possible? I stand here before you, an African-American out gay man, married. And Amy Klobuchar, our wonderful senator, she said that there was 23 women in the United States Senate right now. How wonderful is that? However, I want you to take pause and think about this. Nick Leonard would be the first out gay man in American history to serve in the United States Senate. What an amazing opportunity you have in your hands right now. What an amazing moment that you are literally witnessing. Nick Leonard is Minnesota born, raised, and educated. Born in Walnut Grove, rural Minnesota, he comes from a farming family. His mom, a retired postmaster, and dad, a Vietnam vet. His life and his family is Minnesotan. It's Americana. And when he speaks from the heart. And when he listens because he knows how it is. He understands because he's one of you. And he's got your back. Believe that. On a personal note, let me tell you, my mother, who was an activist in the 1960s, that's where I get a little bit this from, right? They call her Miss Roberta. You may meet her one day. And she has a keen intuition, and she doesn't miss anything. Believe me, I learned that as I was growing up. I never could pull anything over her. Well, I made sure that Nick passed the mom or Miss Roberta test before we got married. And let me tell you, she loves her some Nick Leonard. Every single time she sees Nick Leonard, she's like, oh, come here, baby, give me some kisses. She just covers him kisses. And I'm like, okay, you never kissed me like that. So I tell you this story because Nick Leonard will be loved by all of Minnesotans as our next United States Senator. Now, I don't think you're going to cover him with sugar or kisses like my mom, but they will celebrate your decision. They will celebrate your endorsement all over the country. Believe it. He is the change we've been looking for, and the time has come. Nick Leonard is our revolution, a lifelong progressive activist and advocate on the issues. He's a scientist. A lot of people did not know that. He's a teacher. He's an entrepreneur. He's an attorney. He brings a strong credibility to the progressive stances. He is your champion on science, the environment, education, the student loan crisis, immigration reform, the economy, civil rights, race relations, and yes, LGBTQ advancement. He is committed to get big money out of politics, exposing corruption and ethics violations of our politicians. And he is committed to single-payer Medicare for all, health care as a fundamental right, as the true Minnesota progressive. People of Minnesota, I leave you with this. As you think about your decision of the Nick Leonard endorsement, ask, who in this race among the four can rally the Minnesota population to victory this fall unlike we have ever seen. There are 300,000 LGBTQ individuals in the state of Minnesota. Who will rally that population? Have we not learned the lesson of 2016? We need to understand the people outside of these walls. What will the masses outside think about your choice? Today is the first day of Gay Pride Month. Celebrate. Your decision will be watched. This is your time to make a difference, to make a bold choice. I say, again, where is the Nick Leonard story even possible except for in America? The time has come. The time is now. This is your time, DFL. And with that, I want to introduce your next United States Senator from the great state of Minnesota, Nick Leonard, my husband.
Great, isn't he? Thank you. Thank you. I'm very lucky. He's a very active support for me. I also want to thank all you here tonight and your energized and active people. And thank you for taking the time and energy to be part of this important process. I also want to thank Our Revolution, Bernie Sanders Group, for endorsing our campaign and believing in our progressive message, our grassroots effort to get big money out of politics, and helping us prove that we can win a statewide race only taking small donations. And like his campaign in 2016, our campaign is about raging a revolution where we stand up and say loud and clear that government belongs to all of us, not just a handful of millionaires and billionaires. And if we can't do it today, then when? And if we can't do it here in Minnesota, then where? It's time to unite our voices and carry on revolution of change. It's time we get big money out of politics once and for all. It's time we embrace big, bold ideas. It's time, it's our time. It's time to create an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. It's time we join the rest of the industrialized nations and pass single-payer health care, Medicare for all. Because health care is a fundamental right, not a privilege. The ACA was a step forward, but we need to go further. I know what it's like as someone self-employed to search for plans on Medicare and experience the reduction of choice and increase in cost over the years. I know what it's like as a small business owner to search for plans to cover employees and figure out how to pay and administer the health care. With single payer, everyone will benefit. Everyone will be covered. Businesses will have to pay for it, and we will be free to work and not worry about losing our health care. It's time we increase all wages and pass a $15 minimum wage. It's time to fix crumbling infrastructure and create more high-paying jobs. It's time to protect and support our unions. It's time for equal pay for equal work to be more than just a slogan, but to be made a reality. In order to have an economy that works for everyone, we need to support and fully fund our public schools. It's time to fully fund special education and mental health programs, smaller class sizes, and make sure all children have access to good schools, regardless of race, economic status, or where you were born. My sister has been a teacher for 20 years in Burnsville Public Schools. We speak regularly about the challenges in her classroom. While she buys her supplies out of pocket, she does not complain about it. Her main concern is that they keep cutting back teachers' aides and special education assistants and programs that help her students. And equal access to education should not stop at high school. It's time we make sure that everyone who wants to get a higher education can get one regardless of income level. It's time to support free tuition for public universities and trade schools and support apprentice programs. It's time to expand Pell Grants and work study through the federal government. It's time to expand existing debt forgiveness programs and create ones designed to end the student debt crisis. It's time to enact common sense gun safety laws, to ban assault weapons, to increase background checks. I grew up in a hunting family, and I took gun safety when I was in 5th grade. I'm not trying to take guns away, but let's pass laws that we can all agree on. Let's make it more difficult for a frustrated teenager to get an assault rifle and bring it to school. Enough. It's time to increase high-quality mental health services and include those services in Medicaid coverage, especially for our vets. My father was a Vietnam vet, and I advocated for him at the VA. We need to improve that system. Our vets are some of the most vulnerable to experience PTSD. Let's make sure they have proper mental health care they need. It's time to protect Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. It's time to make prescriptions, drugs, and medical devices more affordable, which will require us to revise the patent laws. As a patent attorney, I know how and where to make amendments that will actually make some change there. If we want to see real change, we need to get big money out of politics, finally. It's time for public funding for campaigns and to end corporate money in politics and to finally overturn Citizens United. It's time to lower the amount of donations per person because when a CEO and his spouse donate $10,800 to their campaign, they have the same expectations as the corporation does. My campaign is not taking corporate PAC money, and we have asked only for small individual donations to allow all people to participate and feel included. Because if you want to get money out of politics, you have to do something. You have to vote for someone who actually is trying to get big money out of politics. We need to work together to save our planet, protect our water, and our parks. It's time to end fossil fuel subsidies and shift the incentivize to renewable energy and support wind and solar power. It's time to oppose the polymet mining project, dangerous pipelines, and hydraulic fracking. It's time to keep our water clean, protect our lakes, rivers, and groundwater. I've been fighting for environmental issues my entire life. I just didn't start talking about them because it was politically advantageous. In the early 1990s, I went to St. John's University and graduated with a biology and environmental science degree. I was awarded an honors distinction for my work in the study of environmental impact of a wastewater treatment plant on our campus lakes. In law school at the University of Minnesota, I started the environmental clinic. In business, I have supported organic farming. And I will bring my education experience in science, law, and business to these issues. And finally, it's time we end institutional racism in our criminal justice system. It's time to require always-on police cameras, to demilitarize the police, and to ban for-profit prisons. It's time for automatic voter registration and get rid of voter suppression schemes. It's time for a short, clear pathway to citizenship, to protect DACA, and support human rights for refugees. It's time to end the married on Saturday, fired on Monday, oppose religious freedom laws designed to curb the rights of the LGBT community. I came out as a gay man my sophomore year in the 1990s at a Catholic university. And you met my husband, John, who gave a wonderful speech and introduction here tonight. And we have been fighting for civil rights and working to end racism and homophobia our entire lives. I intend to continue that work in the Senate and do everything I can so others will not experience the hate and discrimination we've had to endure over the years. We have a lot of work to do, but the only way we can do it is by mobilizing into doing something. We need to do more than just complain. We need to do action. We need to get work done. We need to stay united. We cannot allow the Trumps of this world to divide us. They want to split us up by men versus men, black versus white, gay versus straight, Christian versus Muslim, born in this country versus not born in this country. We need to stay united and work together. I am the true Minnesota progressive, and I've been one my entire life. I will bring my progressive voice to Washington and join Bernie Sanders in his fight for real change. Remember, your Senate seat has a long history of progressive leadership. This is your progressive seat. We need to keep it progressive. Remember Humphrey, Mondale, Wellstone, and even Franken. I am Nick Leonard, and I humbly seek your support, your consideration, and most importantly, I need your endorsement for United States Senate. I'd like to leave you with a quote from a line from an outstanding Broadway play, Hamilton. History has its eyes on you. So go out and be the change that you want to see in the world. Thank you very much.